Welcome to I'm Going In, the newest and hottest podcast sharing incredible stories of strength, resilience, and love. This podcast is about that moment when you face trauma or been knocked down and you decide, I'm going in. Whether it's to help yourself stand back up, to strengthen your faith, or to support others, this is where inspiration begins. Like and subscribe to my social channels and get ready to be uplifted as I introduce our next incredible guest on I'm Going In. Hey everybody, welcome back to I'm Going In. I'm your host, Todd Blyleven, and this show is all about bringing on incredible guests, telling stories of strength, adversity, really cool history of what they've done in their career. Whether it was somebody like I'm bringing on today with John McLaren and a baseball icon in my eyes. I'll go into John's background a little bit, but basically those times when he's gone in, whether it was to go in for himself, to advance his career and do things that were on the extraordinary, or helping others. So I'm really excited to talk with you today, John. Basically, you're a distinguished figure in Major League Baseball. You've got a storied career spanning from catcher to coach and manager. You're hailing from Houston, Texas area. You rose through the ranks as a catcher at the Houston Astros minor league system before transitioning into coaching. Your tenure includes notable roles such as manager of the Seattle Mariners, interim manager of the Washington Nationals. Your coaching journey has allowed you to see and contribute to teams like Toronto Blue Jays, Boston Red Sox, Cincinnati Reds, Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Your just deep-rooted passion for the game. You continue to inspire through just your extensive coaching and your experience and your commitment to baseball excellence. And I'd like to touch on that a little bit as we start to talk. And you're also still involved in the game. And so we're going to talk about that exit from going full-time into maybe some areas where you were tampering a little bit with what do you do with your life. But then now, you're getting ready to go to Dubai and just continue with the game. So, John, thank you, sir, for being a guest on I'm Going In. I really appreciate it.
Glad to be here, Todd. I know you got a great podcast going, and I feel honored to be involved. And I'm looking forward to talking to you here. And if nothing else, maybe we can help somebody through a journey, whether it's personal life or baseball or whatever. But I'm really glad to be here with you.
Yeah, it's so awesome. And you talk about the journey. Talk about when you first started, as a catcher. I mean, that's we always call it, my dad and I used to say that those guys are wearing the tools of ignorance. But really you're that leader on the field. You're the commander of the game. You set the tempo of everything. The mental aspect of just that alone is huge. But talk about, you're coming up. Give us a little history of your career. That'd be awesome.
Well, my first game was in Covington, Virginia, in the Appalachian League, and I hit a home run my first game. And I
Wow.
thought in my mind I'd be up at the big leagues in 2 weeks. I didn't think it'd be a very long process. I missed it by a little bit, but back in those days, on the buses, the first time I was with players from other countries, and there was a language barrier, and it always worked itself out. But
Yeah.
we didn't have headphones. We had boom boxes, and we had buses where air conditioners didn't work, and we're going through all these cities that were hot and humid. So we got the windows open, and we ate at a lot of McDonald's, and we had guys that would sleep on the floor and the rafters. We would sing along as a group, and I look back and I just my heart gets warm. It was great times. It was
Yeah.
the beginning of a beautiful baseball journey for me, and yeah, I'm still trying to continue that. And I keep in touch with some of those guys, and I always tell people, whenever you meet somebody new in baseball, your family's gotten bigger. and that's
That's
just the
right.
way it is. And I got a large baseball family, and we'll talk about it later on when we get out of the game for the first time. Things are kind of quiet, and that's why I try to that's why I got involved with Facebook, is just to connect with people that I've lost touch with. Don't
Mhm.
have their numbers anymore. Didn't know where they were, and I'll be honest with you, I'm still searching for a couple of people. Just I'd like to say hello to them and see what they've been
Yeah.
doing and how they've been doing. So social
Hmm.
media can be a great thing, and it can also work against you. And I just do photos and hello and happy birthday, and I don't do politics or religion. It's just straight up hello, and just want to stay in touch with my friends and family.
Yeah, it's so true on the whole social media piece. You got to be careful with what you do, and what you say. But going back to those, you mentioned the long bus rides. I remember taking bus rides, especially up in the north, going into Canada, and some of those 16-hour rides where you're sleeping on top of each other, and just the camaraderie, right? It gave me
Yeah,
goosebumps when you were talking
yeah,
about that, because it does bring back incredible, just the feelings of things. I mean, I've witnessed some great things. You go through hard times with your pals that you're bouncing around with. Guys are going up and down. Some guys are getting released, and those friendships, although they may cease in that moment, you've shared this blood, sweat, tears with these
yeah,
individuals. They become your family,
yeah.
um, which I think is what makes it so challenging when things come to an end. And we'll talk about that later. But when did you when did you realize your playing days were coming to an end, and how were you introduced to the coaching side? Was that something that you pursued, or how did that transpire?
Well, we didn't have any coaches. When I was in Double A, we had a manager and one coach, and we didn't have a
Hmm.
pitching coach a lot of times. And being a catcher, um, I wasn't trying to be a know it all, but I was trying to be a good teammate, and we would try to help each other out. We would throw extra to each other in batting practice. We didn't have a batting cage. We did have a batting tee. I can remember the Double A team in Columbus, Georgia, would put baseballs inside of it like a dryer and put chalk in there to make them look like they were new
Yep.
baseballs, and it
Yep.
was just part of what we had to do. We didn't have the amount of baseballs that are given to the players to use these days, and uh, just to talk about my mindset. When I interviewed for the Tampa Bay Rays manager's job, it was just Joe Madden and myself, and we went to Palm Springs to interview. And I had two notebooks, and uh, they were just like this.
Huh.
And I threw two notebooks on the table when I went into the interview, and it was Andrew Friedman, and um, uh, he kept looking at these notebooks, and he finally said, "John, you got two notebooks there," and I said, "Yeah, that's the Southern League in 1973," and this is kind of when I knew I wanted to maybe go into coaching. And I said, if you'd open the notebooks up, and he opened it up, and there's Mark Wiley and Jack Maloof.
Hmm.
One of them was hitters and one of them was pitchers. And I go through this notebook every now and then, Todd, and it brings a smile to my face. John Wathan, guys that were in the
Wow.
Southern League during that time that went on in baseball. And and on the hitters, it was how to get them out, how we wanted to pitch to them, and then the pitchers what they threw, what I thought was their best pitch. And I just said, when people come in here and it's going to interview for this job, they're going to tell you they're structured and organized. And this is just to let you know I did this at a young age. I was in my 20s, and I was already thinking about coaching. And I
Hmm.
had actually seen Bob Lillis, who was one of the minor league directors, coach, manager of the Houston Astros. He always had a notebook like this, and he gave me the idea. And I
Wow.
still have a note. I still wear a note. Still have a notebook in my back pocket. Whenever I do a clinic, I suggest young coaches and managers. This is just to remind you of a mistake in the game that you can bring up later, something you need to work on, suggestions for the future, um, notes about the other team, the other manager. So I'm a big note taker. I believe in it, and it's just all part of my preparation, trying to be organized in whatever job I'm doing at the time.
The survivor symbol means so much to me as a mass shooting survivor. I wear my survivor phoenix with pride, representing strength and resilience. It reminds us that even when we feel knocked down, we're not alone. Together, we can rise stronger. A portion of the profits will support other survivors needing help. Get yours today at toddblyleven.com. Yeah, it's so important. I know just being around the game for as long as I have, you don't see many coaches or players as organized as that. And um, I think, even in the business world, you see a lot of disorganization and people not staying focused on, just being an expert in your particular field. And so you had that kind of vision of, I'm not going to play forever. I want to coach. I want to give back. Obviously, when you do coach, you do have that passion to be able to provide the guidance that was given to you to those athletes, not only on the mechanical side, but sounds like throughout your career, you also were there mentally for a lot of athletes, because when you're on the road, for the listeners that don't quite understand, you mentioned eating at McDonald's. I mean, ours was eating at Waffle Houses, and things like that. I remember you don't have money. That's the
Yeah,
biggest probably
yeah,
misconception, unless you sign for a lot of money. But most of the time, you
right,
don't have money. You're probably
right.
gambling your meal money in the back of the bus, playing cards or something. Um, but for the most part, it really is a grind. It's a struggle. You're trying to be the best. You're trying to get to where, play in the big leagues one day. And sometimes, it happens. Most of the time it doesn't. So how were you, from a manager's perspective, did you have kind of a process that you kind of vetted through learning players, tried to identify maybe some players that were having some struggles off the field? Did you spend time with the athletes? Like, what was your approach to just learning more about these guys and then trying to be that father figure? Because essentially that's what a good manager does. I still remember Tom Kochman to me was, I mean, crazy, crazy Tom Kochman
Yeah,
on the field, but man, I'd run through a wall for him. He was
yeah,
always there no matter what. And
yeah.
the door was always open. What was your approach like to just getting to know the guys?
Well, I came up, and when I grew up, I didn't have a father in the house. It was my mother,
Hmm.
and she disciplined me. She was my biggest cheerleader, and uh, once I knew I wanted to be a coach, I knew what coaches had meant to me growing up. They were a father figure. They were a mentor. They gave me discipline. They gave me encouragement. They built me up. They put me in my place, and I knew that this was going to be my calling. I knew this is what I wanted to be, and I had great mentors, Jim Beecham and both Jimmy Williams. There was Jimmy Williams in Baltimore, and of course Jimmy Williams, who managed Toronto and Boston and Houston, and Lou Piniella. And I
Wow.
learned something from every manager and coach I ever had. Every one of them, I took something in. Sometimes it wasn't all good. Sometimes it was, how to discipline players, how to talk to people. But I've always been from the school. Um, you got to be honest. If you're not honest, every credibility you ever had or hope to have, you don't have any. And You have to be honest with players, and that gets a little tricky sometimes because you don't want to give inside information that you've had with your organization. That's some coaches. That's some discussions I've had with young coaches. Is look,
Hmm.
when we have a meeting with the organization, and before the during spring training and stuff, you can't take information out of that room. What people have said or anything. That's a private matter. If the head guy wants to talk to the player and tell him what was said, but us as coaches, we you really got to be careful about this because they'll find out some coaches don't have a great uh, feeling about them or whatever, and that happens sometimes when you get in. I remember in the Toronto Blue Jay days and Philadelphia Phillies days. There was no holds bar. You had an open discussion, open debate. You were baseball people. You had conviction. You had people that would talk up, and you would give your opinion. And I was always from the school. You had to be tactful. You didn't want to belittle anybody. You didn't want to throw anybody under the bus. But when we had discussions about players, sometimes it got personal. And a real quick story: I had Rob Ducey in Toronto, and I love Rob.
Wow.
Had him in Venezuela, and Rob got hurt. I was hitting him fly balls actually in the Sky Dome, and he went through the the outfield fence, and he hurt his hurt his knee.
Hmm.
And so years go by, and I'm with Rob again, and he says, John, I got a little problem with you. Well, what had happened in our meetings that we had, uh, Pat Gillick had a secretary taking minutes, and his agent had called for these minutes about what was being said about Rob because they had a lawsuit and whatever, and I had Rob in Venezuela, and he was just a young kid coming up to the big leagues, and they asked my opinion. I said, "Look, this guy's got all-star type ability, talent, and I just don't think it'd be fair to Rob to bring him in the big leagues right now and have him sit on the bench." I mean, we had Lloyd Mosby and George
Hmm.
Bell and Jesse Barfield, and
Jeez.
we had Glenn Allen Hill and Rob Ducey and Mark Whitten and these guys coming up, and just to bring a young kid up and have him sit on the bench and not working at his trade, pitch recognition, and whatever. And I just explained to him. I said, I talked about you in a positive light, Rob. I'm a booster of yours. I just wanted to see you become the best major league player you could be. And actually, when we had this discussion one on one, he gave me a hug. He said, "That's great, Mac." And and there were some other people in that room that he told me that had said some negative things about him, and which he didn't appreciate. But this was information that you thought was private, but because of the situation of him with the knee injury, uh, uh, they were trying to show that he was well thought of in the organization, and that he was on his way to being a star type player. So um, it gets a little tricky, and I've always been from the school. You look somebody in the eye when you're talking to them. You're honest with them. There's times that we have to critique, and it's all about presentation. Sometimes my voice sounds gruff or grumpy, but that's the way I am. And if you know me, you know that I don't mean
Hmm.
anything about it, but it's just the way my voice carries. And I'm intense. When I got my game face on, the way it comes out, you might take it the wrong way. But if we have a discussion one on one and we can talk, that I'm supportive and that I'm only trying to help you. So I tell my staff that, especially when we start out, I said, you guys that don't know me. It happened last summer in Bluefield in the Appalachian League when I was doing the college league. I said, guys, when I'm in the game, I'm all business. So when I start talking, please don't take it the wrong way, and don't think that I'm talking down to you. I never do that, but when I'm in the moment, I fire sometimes, and I would never call anybody names or anything like that. And it's just we all have our own styles, and like I said, I would try to tell the team and my coaches, like, hey, this is me. Don't be alarmed.
Hmm.
I am what I am. I'm not trying to be somebody I'm not. And I think that we all have our own personalities, and as long as we're consistent,
Yeah.
whether you're losing or winning, it's easy to be a front runner, Todd, as you know. I mean,
Yeah.
when you're winning, everything is cool, and then all of a sudden, you're a different person when you lose, and
Yeah.
it's tough sometimes when you lose. You know, sometimes the clubhouse goes in different directions, and it's a balancing act, and that's why you try to get the players with good chemistry to be able to handle all situations, and that's when you do put your roster together, that's things you think about, about different personalities blended in to be a good team that will all pull the rope in the same direction.
Yeah, you brought up so many great points. Just the fact of like what you're touching on right now with staying balanced with what you do. I know my dad was a true competitor in the sport. When he crossed that white line, he became a different beast, a different animal than what he was at home or when he was in the clubhouse. He always, enjoyed, doing pranks and just a fun guy
He's
to
known
be
as one of
around.
the biggest prankster in the history of baseball, and it
Yeah,
was all in fun. It was all in fun,
yeah. But you cross that white line and you get into that game mode, and that's the same whether you're I talk to firefighters and that bell goes off. I mean, they go from having a good time or watching a movie together or just palling
Yeah,
around to now it's business. You
yeah,
put that coat on. You look at a NFL running back when they put that mouth guard in. That's their moment. In 3 seconds of time, they're bursting out and they're doing their job. You walk into a boardroom. I know for me personally in the corporate space now, and you do everything and you're having fun, but the minute that you walk into that office space and it's your time to shine, it's business.
yeah,
I think like the one thing that you touched on is really important when you're talking about just that mental approach to the game and staying balanced. And I think too many players, and tell me what your thoughts are. I think too many players, especially at the minor league level, the collegiate level, all the way down into youth, we see these players out at the big league level making it look easy, right?
yes,
They're consistently making it easy, but consistent's the big word. I think that when you look at those players, they are so balanced within themselves. They know what they can and can't do. They try to stay in this lane, the good ones. And when they need to increase that energy a little bit, they'll go up a little higher, but they're not going to go so high where they're going to be
yeah,
out of whack, right? Out of that consistency mode. I think a lot of young players today, young athletes in general, and even parents, parenting athletes, you expect too much of yourself in that given moment when maybe there needs to be some ramp up of training and you want to increase slowly, right? What's been your approach to players, especially at the minor league level, or even college level now? I mean, you're coaching all types of players, but what's that approach when like a guy fails and he gets so hard on himself and he
yeah,
gets out of that balance and he goes straight down because he's
yeah,
expecting way too much.
yeah. Well, I put a lot of pressure on myself, especially when I was young. And talking with like Gary Mack, he was our sports psychologist in Seattle. I told you about
Mm-hmm.
last time we talked, and he worked with firemen, and one thing that helped me more than anything, and I try to talk to the young players about this, is you got to know yourself. And the biggest thing is you got to become friends with yourself. You got to appreciate yourself. You got to look yourself in the mirror and say, look, let's work together on this. Um, we can get this done. And let's don't talk bad about ourselves, feel bad about ourselves. We know we're going to have struggles. We know there's going to be failure. There's no sport that you're not going to have failure.
That's right.
And let's try to work together and let's see whether we can eliminate carryovers. One bad at bat to two, one bad game to five, one bad day to 1 week, 1 week to 1 month. We've done it before. We can do it again. Don't play games with me. I'd like to tell a story that has meant a lot to me. Um, um, I'm going to use his name because I don't think he'll mind, and he's a good friend. His name is Mackie Sasser, and Mackie had a problem with a thing throwing the ball, and I mean there were some struggles there. I have heard a lot of examples around baseball, and this is the first time that I was dealing with it with a player right in front of me. So I was a catching coach, and uh, we had somebody come in to talk to Mackey. We're in the Kingdome, and we went to the doctor's office, and Lou Pinella says, "Look, you need to find out how you can get him in the middle of the game if he's struggling to get him back on track." And so it's Mackey and myself, and I had Mackey in Venezuela, so I knew him, and I like him a lot. He's had a great junior college career in Alabama, and I'm really proud of him. So we're in there talking. There's just three of us, and I don't know if this guy was a sports psychologist or a psychiatrist, but he was an expert in the field, and he's asking Mackey about himself a little bit, and any pressures on his life, and does he put pressure on himself? And so I'm taking everything in, so I know exactly what we're dealing with and how I can help. And so this doctor asked Mackey, says, "Do you ever get a little birdie on your shoulder that talks to you?" And Mackey's eyes kind of lit up, and he says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Does this little birdie play games with you? Like, aha, you have to throw the ball again. Oh, is that going to be a challenge?" And the little birdie's putting bad things into his mind. And he says, "Yeah." And he says, "Well, let me tell you something." He says, "Your mind's going to play tricks with you because of this little birdie. And now you got your heart, and your heart loves you. It's always going to be nice to you and talk nice to you. And now you got your gut, and that's where you're going to get this done. Your gut has got to tell your mind and your heart, get out of the way. I got a job to do and leave me alone." And
Hmm.
he was firm when he said it. And I've used this story many
Wow.
times to help people get over a mental block. Like, hey, don't listen to your mind. It's going to play games with you. It's going to talk to you. It's going to tease you. It's going to make fun of you. It's going to belittle you. It's going to make you feel bad. And then of course your heart's always going to love you, and it's not going to be able to help you in this situation. But your gut can override everything. So I've told this story to some people, and it's helped a
Wow.
couple people to get over the hump. And I wish I knew about this when I was younger. And again, this is part of I guess me being around so long. I've picked up little tidbits, and I when I have something like this, I'll share it with a player. What I can do to help him to be in a good mental state, to be in a positive state to go out and play, and uh, to give you an example, last summer when I went to Bluefield, I always do this. Um, you always judge the book by its cover, and I've been misled so many times about
Mm.
that book cover. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I look around at these kids, and I can see some kids that are very cocky, very high on themselves, and then I can see some shy guys that are really not sure about themselves. So what I try to do is I try to get both of them to meet in the middle. I'm trying to build this one kid up to get in the middle to believe in himself, and I'm trying to get this other kid that thinks he can do no wrong and he's Mr. Cool. I'm trying to bring him back to the middle and let him know that, hey, you're not better than anybody else. Come back to earth with us and um, get here in the middle with the rest of us, and let's all
Right.
have a good team here. So that's one
Mm.
of the thought. And I tell the guys what I'm going to do. I said, some of you guys are real high on yourself. Great. I love somebody with confidence, but back it up and don't act like you're better than the other guys on this team because you're not. Nobody's better than anybody. I don't care how good you are. And
Yeah.
one thing about our sport and every sport, for some reason, when a Roger Clemens or Barry Bonds are at the top of the mountain in our sport, you can't. A lot of people can't wait for them to fall. I think it's so
Mm.
wrong, but it happens. And yeah, I'm a big Roger Clemens fan. I respected Barry Bonds, regardless of the circumstances.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time I saw Barry was in Venezuela, and he just was a young number one draft pick out of Arizona State. He hadn't matured physically or anything, and undoubtedly turned himself the greatest player there was. And I just um, I just our mindset of watching somebody fall is so wrong. We should make people feel good. I believe in the power of a laugh and a smile. I think when I smile, number one, I've always smiled. I God gave me a nice smile, and I love to smile. And I think when you smile at people, it puts them at ease, and that's what I try to
Yeah.
do. I we always hear this, don't big leg me, and it's very true. There's some people. I mean, I've been around players, Todd, that they think they're bigger than the game and bigger than the team, and that's their problem. I'm not from that school. I want people to feel at ease. I want them to have a good time when we come out to play the game, give their best effort. Um, if they made mistakes, learn from it. That's why I take notes so I can talk to them later on. And that goes with our society in general. I really think the power of the laugh, the smile. Um, we need more of that
Yeah.
in our complex, tense world that we live in today. We're in a bubble, and somehow we got to get out. And like I said, that's where baseball comes in, and all sports, but in our case, baseball. I think people forget about their problems when they come to the games. They can go 3 hours and forget about being in debt, personal problems, professional problems, and have a beer and enjoy the game and have a hot dog and enjoy their family. So
Yeah.
that's where our game comes in, and it works wonders for a lot of people.
No, you're so right. It really has. I mean, whether it's a rekindling of a relationship between a father and a son, or father and a daughter, or mother and a son, whatever that is, it gives you that moment of separation from the real world of problems that we have, and that's what sports always has always done, regardless of whatever sport that is. You touched on um, a couple different stories that players took themselves out of that balanced piece, right? On how they're walking down that line, learning the game of baseball, for example. And the players that you say, don't big league me. Don't bring that attitude into my clubhouse. I don't need the attitude. I need the character of the players to all mesh, to adapt to loss, to adapt to failure together, to pick up. Where are my leaders? And you think about a true leader, right, in the game of sport. Look, guys, you brought up guys like Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds, and I mean, Bonds came from Bobby Bonds, and his younger brother played, and that lineage and heritage, the Alomars, and all those different people, the Boone family. I mean, you look at a lot of those different people that stayed within their lane in terms of they were consistent through their game, and some players tried to mentally take themselves out, which then ended up probably taking them out of the game itself.
Right.
But
Right.
let's go the other way. So now you got a player, because we were talking a little bit in our last conversation. Some of the players that you as a manager, as a coach, you're seeing guys that are not playing at their consistent level, and it's not a physical thing. They're going to their workouts, they're going and hitting early, they're doing their thing, but they're just not there mentally. You brought up a couple different examples, and certainly you don't have to use names, but what was your approach to players when you knew something was going on outside the lines? Something was happening outside the clubhouse, outside the ballpark. There was
Yeah.
something going on with that player. What was your
Yeah.
approach to them as a manager? Because you bring up, you were a tough coach. You expected a lot. But I bet you when all of a sudden you turned around and gave that smile to somebody, it was like, okay, I got coach's approval. I'm good. It was probably an uplift moment. I've played
Yeah.
for coaches like that. But what was your approach to approaching those players when you knew something was going on? What was that process like to make them feel comfortable to talk to you? And then what was the outcome a lot of times?
Well, I think a lot of players um, they lose their concentration and focus, and then you try to figure out why. Is it preparation? Is there a problem off the field? You kind of go down the list, and that's where you have a lot of one-on-one sessions. And
Hmm.
today they have guys they can talk to. Now they've got rooms where they can rest. There it could be guys who are having trouble sleeping at night, and I had that problem, and I never had a problem sleeping. I guess I coached for Lou Piniella 14 years, and at the end of the game, I was drained. We gave it our all, and I wasn't the type to go have drinks. And I was going to bed. I was going to go watch Sports Center, watch some highlights, get a good hour's sleep, 8 hours sleep, and I was done. And then all of a sudden, when I went back to Seattle, I wasn't sleeping well. I was managing, and uh, you know, I, I I think a lot of people say I never take the game home. I couldn't lie. I did take the game home. I reran the game. How could we have done this different? Was this the right decision? And just go through the whole process again and run it through you, and then you come out and say it was the right decision. It didn't work, and that happens. That's the game. That's part of the game. But uh, once I actually got was talking to the doctor. Uh, I mean, it was huge for me. I found out I had sleep apnea, and I didn't know I had it. And I knew I'd gasp for air at night, and I'd snore a little bit. My wife would beat me with a pillow, and so that's one of the reasons. I'd wake up in the morning, I was like I hadn't slept at all, and I went and got professional help, and I tried the CPAP and all that kind of stuff, and it didn't work for me. And now I've got a mouthpiece to help me to have air go in. Um,
Yeah.
you know, um, uh, I was indebted to the Dr. Bruce Thomas in Washington Nationals. He got me over the hump. He's not with us anymore, and he did so much for me. And that could be another reason. Why aren't you sleeping? You know, if I find I that's a question I always ask. I said, "How do you sleep at night?" Oh, I sleep great. Well, that's okay. And again, we go back to honesty. And just if we can have a conversation and we can have honesty and let's just put all our chips on the table and see what we got. And um, you know, uh, when I see players that start slacking off in preparation, I'll say, "What's up, man? You've always done this, that before, and you're not doing it anymore." Well, I'm conserving my energy. I said, "Okay, okay. Well, don't stop doing the things that you've always done to make you the player you are. Don't change that. But the day in, day out struggles that all of us have, the players, us as just in the private world or whatever. I think again we got to go back and look in the mirror and say, what's up? Um, why are you not happy? What is
Yeah,
making you unhappy? What is there something we can do about this? Do I need to talk to somebody professionally? Is it possible maybe I need to be on medications to maybe sleep better at night? I mean, I just think it's part of sorting things out and being honest with you with somebody. And again, I really stress don't keep things inside of you. There was a couple uh, things that happened over the course of my baseball career. I mean, uh, people committing suicide. It caught me off guard, and I'm thinking
wow.
I didn't see this coming. I didn't see any red flags. And I would ask, I said, did you see some red flags? Well, and that's why I'm stressed. And, if you see a friend or a family member acting funny, ask questions, find out what's going on. I mean, it's not that you want them to tell you their whole private life, but maybe they'd like to share something from you. Keeping things inside of you, I can talk from personal experience, is the worst thing you can do. You need to get it out. You know, it keeps in, it just keeps bothering you, and it's not going to get any better.
That's right.
And uh, you know, um, if you're a good friend, if you have a good friend, they should be willing to listen to you and have a conversation and
Yeah,
find out if they have some good suggestions for you.
I agree. I mean, you're touching on, um, the power of being vulnerable, right? And the changing the mindset. I was, just speaking to a friend of mine that runs an organization with, veterans that are amputees that are going out touring the country playing, fast pitch, slow pitch softball. They're iconic. They go into hospitals. They're working with kids. They're working with first responders. They're just doing their part to raise awareness that yes, they went through this horrific thing. Yes, they had trauma, but they're being open now. They're achieving success in their own right. You have to be able to learn from those individuals. You got to be able to know, okay, I'm struggling. The headaches, the feeling like someone's kicking me in the back of the skull, trying to hold all that energy in, that negativity. Maybe I went through a divorce. Maybe I went through something horrific. Maybe I saw something horrific. Maybe I'm just feeling bad. I'm just depressed. I don't understand what's going on. If you're like a minor league player or you're an athlete and you've just had failure after failure after failure and you can't figure it out on your own and you're losing that sleep or your anxiety's just off, talk to somebody. And that's the whole part is we need more coaches. We need more leaders in our boardrooms. We need more coaches on our fields to be more empathetic to especially today's athlete, right? It's
Yeah,
different. And I know for me in my personal experience going through what I went through, multiple times, and we go through a lot in our lives. But when I went through the shooting in Las Vegas, obviously I came out a mess. I didn't know what I was supposed to
yeah,
do. And through guidance, through friends that stepped out of their comfort zone to make sure I was okay was huge to me. I embraced that, right? I knew, okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't alone with this, number one. But what I learned the most, John, was, and you've touched on this, like knowing what you're dealing with. Like you opened up, you had some sleep issues. You didn't even know until you actually talked to somebody. And when you can get that trauma or whatever that issue is and put it out in front of you, I always talk about this. If you can get that issue out in front of you and now you know what it looks like, you know what it feels like. If it starts to back up on you, you know how that makes you feel, right? So I'm going to learn how to not let that back up on me. I'm going to keep it out in front. I'm going to walk with it. I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to challenge it every single day because I need to stay balanced. I need to stay consistent. I think having managers and coaches and people like yourself that show us what the grind is like, show us how to be tough, show us how to get that gut to like speak louder than the mind and the heart, and give us that guidance through and through on how to be the best person we can be as individuals is amazing. But you need to be able to be open to that and be vulnerable enough to ask that question to the player. Hey, what's going on? Like, you're not
Yeah.
yourself. And
Yeah.
I think it's a big important lesson to a lot of probably the listeners that are coaches, college coaches, high school coaches that are listening to this right now.
Well, Todd, first of all, the awareness, you're giving awareness, having this podcast. The Major League Baseball, the studies that they have done on sleep and the pressures of the game and the accessibilities to people to talk to now. Everything that they're doing is to help the player have the best career they can have as for as long as they have. And us as individuals, we have to understand that. And if there is help, uh, you can't be the type like, I don't want to be thought of as a wimp and I'm going to go talk to a sports psychologist.
That's right.
The best players in the game are doing this. You look at every golfer, every one of them has a sports psychologist on their team to talk to, how to handle the pressures. And that's even more so than a team game. The golfers are out there by themselves. They
Yeah.
can blow up at any time. So, you know, tried to play the game myself, golf, and when I watch these guys, it's incredible the concentration and you got to have confidence. And again, we get back to if you think you have a problem and your mind is playing with you, get help before it's too late. I mean, life is short; it's precious. I mean, we lost Mike Brumley the other day. I mean, in a car wreck, and I was
Yeah.
devastated. I mean, I had great history with Mike. He's a good person. He's gone, and in my situation, I know I'm rounding third and headed home. I know I'm 72 years old. I mean, that's why I'm trying to stay active in baseball, traveling the world, is because I don't want to let the old man in. And I go by that
Mm.
every
Wow.
single day. I look in the mirror and I just say, don't let the old man in, and I try to do the best I can to eat is good but I want to have fun and I want to travel and we got back to when the game the game's over. There's not a spring training and I call it when the cheering stops. And I've seen it happen to many a player and I've heard players talk about it. Well, he's struggling. And what do you do with free time? Can you play golf? Yes. Can you get another job? Yes. Do players do that? No. So
Mhm.
you get a boredom, and when you get bored, sometimes you do bad things. You start drinking. start doing drugs or whatever. And that's why we have got to try to keep our mind occupied. We got to have challenges. We got to keep learning. Like I said, uh, it's a challenge every day because we live in a complex world. And I just get up and, I'm a routine type guy. I go have my coffee with my guys and
Hmm.
we talk about everything. And, I try to schedule a day where I'm busy, that I'm just not stuck in a house by myself. And that's one of the reasons I enjoy playing golf so much, because I get outside. It's a little difficult now in Phoenix, going 112 outside, but
Yeah.
I'm managing. I try to stay hydrated and stuff, But Todd, I hope I'm not coming across as like I know it all. I don't. I learned
No.
from experiences where I've failed, and
Yeah.
I've had shortcomings, and everybody's, when they ask you, would you do things different? Absolutely. If I had a chance to do things over again, if I had the knowledge I've had now, but also now, because of the awareness that we have and the programs that MLB put out there, even for the minor league players,
Yep.
it's awesome. You utilize it. Please
Yeah.
utilize it. I mean, they're there for you. Why wouldn't you want to use it? And
Well,
uh, there's a lot of great things going on, and take advantage of it.
yeah, you have touched on again, you're just throwing these nuggets out, just high fastballs and swing and miss. It's awesome. The the fact of, having resources in today's times at your fingertips is really important. And again, it's nobody's saying that any of us know everything. We're just trying to share our knowledge and our experiences. And, I know I was raised in a house that my dad was a tough individual. He was raised by a tough individual as well as dad,
Yeah,
molasses
yeah,
truck driver, plumber. I mean,
yeah,
hands dirty all the time. My dad kept his
yeah,
body moving. He still does. He's out
yeah,
playing golf. He's in that same mindset. And I think when you like you brought up, when you let that cheering stop and you step away and now you're stepping into silence, that's very traumatic. Whether you're on the high of your life and you're doing really well, when that music stops, it
yeah,
slows everything down and it's a scary
yeah,
place for a lot of people. And you're right. People
yeah.
resort into, drinking or whatever else. So find an activity. I know, one of the things that we talked about as we're kind of getting closer to the end of the show here, is that moment when the game does stop for you as an athlete, and
Yeah,
whether it's your last high school game, college game, professional game,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
done. So you brought up some good tidbits on just keeping yourself active. I know when my last day of playing was over, I went through a serious depression. I didn't know what I was supposed to do in my life.
yeah.
I'm young. I just played professional baseball. That's what I was built to do. I didn't have any backup plan. I didn't
Right.
ever think about, like you were thinking about, coaching at some point. I kind of got forced into that because I was doing lessons. And then I had a conversation with Tim Mead about, what should I do? And Tim said, why don't you go into scouting? Like, you'd probably be a pretty good scout. And it was amazing. I absolutely loved scouting. And it,
Yeah.
it just got me back in the game. And I've been in
Right.
sports now my entire life, and I've kept myself active. I think it's an important lesson to learn. And I'd love to hear what your kind of exit from the coaching piece and then that transition into doing what you're doing today, and
Yes.
still being an ambassador of the game, and you're traveling the world now. You're not just in one city. It's awesome. So can you talk about what that meant to you and just being, just being back in the game, what you're doing today?
Well, I think the first thing that I was challenged with is not going to spring training.
Mm,
It was a fun first day. You hadn't seen each other in 6 months, and you see your staff and you catch up. And, some people you keep in touch with, and, some people, you don't call a lot, but you get to see them again, some of your minor league personnel and stuff. And God, when you first get there, you come in, there's a locker with your name on it, and there's 4 pair of shoes and 10 shirts and sweatshirts and caps. And, it was just a
Wow.
welcome back type thing. And I was fortunate. I got involved with MLB International, did academies in Europe, and that led me to managing the China national team. Then I got involved with um, Dubai, and I've done clinics, and now Dennis Cook and I are going to go back and help Poland with their national team in the middle of July, and then we're going to Switzerland for another tournament. And I did the MLB draft combine the last 2 days, and I saw a lot of people, and I don't know if it's promoting myself. It's just to let people know that I would be interested if there was a project that you might need somebody. I don't try to be pushy. I just say, look, I love to travel the world. I've got a great supportive wife. She knows what makes me tick. She knows I enjoy traveling. She knows I enjoy teaching baseball. And if there's an opportunity, I just dropped my name to a couple people that I saw. I said, please don't hesitate to call. I'd love to help you out. So
Yeah.
I try to stay busy, and I'm looking forward to going to Poland. I'm looking forward to going back to Dubai. We have a huge 2025 season that everybody's planning, and it's going to be fabulous. And it's just, our ownership in this Baseball United. I mean, we just put Ronald Acuna and Marte from the Mets, and with Adrian Beltre and Barry Larkin and Nick Swisher and Ryan Howard and Mariano Rivera and Albert Pujols, and everybody shows up, and Felix Hernandez, who I managed, and he's one of the owners, and Didi Gurius, and I mean it's awesome. Like I said,
Yeah.
I want to stay in the game, and I'm not going to probably be part of an MLB team any longer. And I'll be honest with you, that's disappointing, and it's for a selfish reason. I enjoy working with kids. I know I can mentor coaches and young managers, but I never got a ring. In over 50 years in baseball, I never got a
Wow.
ring, and I think that's one of the things every year when you go to spring training, you're chasing a ring. You want to
Hmm.
be the best. Got to the American League Finals 4 or 5 times. We just never got to the World Series, and had great experiences. We lost to some great clubs. They won the World Championship and so forth. And but I still don't have that ring, and I might not ever have it. And I'm good with it. Like I said, I gave it my best shot. It just didn't work out, and so I'm doing these other things, and they might lead to other things. And don't let the old man in.
Hmm. Well, that's an amazing song, and obviously a amazing motto to live by. I know, John, you look back at people like yourself. You're extremely rare in the industry. You've done so much in your career, and you're still going, and you still have so much to offer, and especially to today's coach that is just always asking questions. I go to the ABCA conference, every year, and you're always walking around, and I'm seeing the coaches with the big eyes, looking at all the technology, listening to
Yeah,
some of the people
yeah,
on the panel. Tom House is giving a talk,
yeah,
and you
sure.
just see these young, aspiring coaches saying, "Man, like this guy's got it together," or "How do I get to that point?" So there's so much opportunity for a voice to be heard, right? especially someone as experienced as you are in the game. But I think too, the game, and it's not to go into too much here because we're going to wrap up, but I think the game needs to reverse the engines a little bit itself. I think it needs to. I get it, the analytics. I'm a sports tech guy. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
I built, a baseball scouting application. I get it.
Yeah.
But I built that baseball scouting application to educate young scouts how to scout like a veteran scout. And I've educated the veteran scouts on how to scout like a young scout using
Correct.
technology. There has to be a
Yeah.
better process to keep players and coaches in the game to keep it what it is. Otherwise,
Yeah.
we're just going to make every decision on, you're not going to need managers anymore. You're just going to run a report and players are going to get like a green light and they're just going to go in because that's what the computer tells you to. So keep up the fight. You know what I really appreciate, you've gone in so many times for players, and just in our conversations we've had, the conversations you've had with players, the open door policy, the grind, the conversations you've had just on the gut piece, and now you're just an inspiration to let people know, hey, don't let the old man in. Keep your body moving forward. Keep an open mind. You never know what's around the corner. And you are literally traveling the world right now doing what you love. I mean, and you're getting to go play golf, man. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
It's so awesome.
Yeah. But you know what? For all of us to do something that we grew up, that we loved, it's a rarity, I think. I hear a lot of people talk, they really enjoy the profession they went into, regardless of the money they're making. It's just a job. And baseball is more than just a job. And
right.
We can touch other people and we can lead by example. And, at this stage of my career, I'm just trying to give it back. Baseball has given me everything. Everything I have is because of baseball, and everything I will have is because of baseball. And I'm very appreciative of that. And one thing I just like to mention to not only players is to young coaches and managers: do not be afraid to ask questions. I know there's shy kids that don't like to speak up, and they're not sure about things. And if you encourage players to ask questions, it leads to other things. I know when someone, I always tell the young kids, I used to tell them that I want everybody to ask a question every day. I would just go around, what do you got? Ask me a question. And it might lead to another topic. And then you got an open discussion. And that's how you learn the game. You talk about it. And I'm real big on asking questions. When you got doubt, I mean, why not just, I always say, in baseball, there's not a stupid question. You're not going to make yourself look bad. Obviously, you're not sure about something, so speak up and ask the question. And
that's right.
I think it's something we need to encourage, not only players but young managers and coaches.
100%. Because if you're thinking about that question, there's probably 5 other guys or women or whatever, wherever you are, that are probably thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Or may think they know, but they don't know. So, but listen, thank you, sir, for being on the show. So much more conversation to be had on this. And, just again, I really appreciate your dedication to the game. I'm still hopeful, man. Don't give up on that ring. Don't give up on that ring. You never know. You never know. So
you bet. You bet.
Well, good luck,
enjoyed it, Todd. Yeah. Thank you very much. And we'll stay in touch, and we'll do it again.
Thank you for being on I'm Going In.